Part 48. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 482. The ruins of the lonely city have been uninhabited for a long time, and it is still within the range of the blue star human race. Everything meets the requirements. Thinking of this, Yejing suddenly stood up. In the chaotic conference room, originally only a group of old men were arguing, but when Yejing suddenly stood up, their words paused slightly, and everyone's eyes were all on Yejing. They were still talking fiercely. Why did Yejing suddenly stand up? Hey, 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 you stinky boy, why did you suddenly stand up? You have nothing to do here, go to sleep. Don't you have anything to do? Go sign the documents if you have nothing to do. This. Yejing smiled awkwardly and almost cursed. A group of guys who rely on their age. You can't discuss anything, and you don't allow me to speak. Yejing rolled his eyes, looked around, and said unhappily, don't you forget, the Lonely City Ruins area 2 years ago, isn't this a ready-made place? Lonely City Ruins area? What is that place? It's the landing point of the small planetary fragments some time ago, which smashed a city. Is it very remote? Not far, but no one has been there for a long time, and it's a bit dirty now. Lonely City Ruins area? The dean's eyes lit up immediately. He knew that place. He had seen it in Yejing's files before. After the small planetary fragments fell, the entire Lonely City was crushed to pieces. Fortunately, everyone left. Moreover, Lonely City is only separated from Demon City by a few cities. With their strength, it only takes less than an hour to get from Demon City to the Lonely City Ruins area. It's very close. Be quiet. The noisy meeting room made the dean frown, and he couldn't help but snorted. As the dean spoke, all the directors shut up and quieted down. It seems that the prestige of the dean is still very strong. I will bring up the map of the ruins of the Lonely City now. Let's take a look together. The dean clicked a few times on the big screen in the conference room, and a super blue light 2080p virtual image appeared in front of everyone. This is an image recorded by an instrument in the outer sky, directly shining on the ruins of the Lonely City. On the image, it is a real large ruin. Thousands of square miles of land are all gray. These are all broken planetary fragments. In the image, there is also a route directly connected to the Magic City, which is really close on the reduced map. This is the Lonely City Ruins area. It seems that the area is enough to place the Killen Mountains, and the distance to the Demon City is not far. If the Killen Mountains are placed in the Lonely City Ruins area, it is estimated that it will only take 1 day to complete. After the dean finished speaking, he looked at the other directors in the meeting room and said in a calm tone, what do you think? Lonely City. Actually, it's okay, right? I think there is no problem. Why don't we start the action? Then let's set it in Lonely City, the sooner the better. After everyone discussed it, they turned their heads to look at the dean and nodded in unison. Then let's set it in the Lonely City Ruins area. The dean's expression froze and his tone became serious. Everyone, move now. Those above the Transcendent Realm will go to the Killen Mountains, and those below the Transcendent Realm will arrange transfers in the Demon City. First, release the news, and do not cause panic among the people during the transfer. Second, summon the semi-saints who have time to come to the Killen Mountains to help transfer the Hellfire. Third, decide on all arrangements for the Hellfire as soon as possible. Fourth, contact the aviation track between the Demon City and the Lonely City, and clear the track for the next 2 days. Fifth, immediately send people to clean up the ruins of the Lonely City, and try to clear a large amount of open space in a short period of time, so that large-scale instrument buildings can be built. Sixth, arrange airships to transport obsidian that can withstand the Hellfire to the ruins of the Lonely City to prepare for instrument construction. Seventh. The dean thought for a while and said, forget it, let's do these first. After speaking, he clapped his hands. Take action now. Yes. The reason why the Council controls Blue Star is largely because of its rapid action. When the Dean made the arrangements, all the directors left the meeting room in a blink of an eye and started to act. Everyone followed their duties and tried their best to complete the Dean's instructions. After all the directors went to work, the Dean turned his attention to Yejing and the other two. Instantly, Yejing trembled all over, and a chill came over him. What's going on? Why are you looking at us? We can't do anything? Yejing was confused. Dean, what are you looking at? The Dean glared. What's wrong with you looking at me? It's okay to look at me. Yejing shrank his neck and immediately became cowardly. What about the three of you? After a few seconds of silence, the Dean said, you three go to the ruins of the Lonely City to investigate the situation, report the recent situation of the ruins, and check if there are any abnormal sounds. Why do we have to go? Yejing's face was bitter, and he couldn't help wailing. They just came back from the center of the earth, and they haven't waited long in the Magic City, and they have to go out again? Do you really think young people don't need to rest? This kind of working time from 9 to 9 is very inhumane. The Dean consoled him, don't worry, after this matter is over, I will give you a long vacation. Yejing's heart moved. Let me ask, how long is the long vacation? The Dean said, 1.5 days. A day and a half. Have you been out for half a day? Yejing's face darkened. Dean, are you kidding me? Let's talk about it then. You go out now and quickly report the situation in the ruins area of Gukan. The Dean coughed twice and said. Why? Yejing sighed and led a person with one hand, leading Gray and Zhao out of the conference room. After this work is over, I will go home and retreat. A year of retreat. Yejing, are we really going? Don't you really think of us as tools? We're always here to use you as you want. Zhao Xingbang muttered to vent his dissatisfaction, that old man, I think he is just playing tricks on us. We still need to make a trip for such a trivial matter. Yejing rolled his eyes, what the hell are you talking about here? How dare you call him an old man in front of the Dean? Also, don't forget. We are still in the council, they can hear you. Puff. Zhao Xingbang hurriedly covered his mouth, looked around carefully, and breathed a sigh of relief when he found that no one had noticed. Scolding the old man in charge of the council in the council is something that most people can't do, right? Gray asked casually, how should we go? As soon as these words came out, Yejing and Zhao Xingbang both focused on him. Why don't you have any ideas in your mind? Yejing patted Gray on the shoulder and said with a smile, do you think your speed is faster, or is it the civilian airship that is faster? Do you even need to ask? Gray puffed up his chest, raised his proud head, and said with a proud expression on his face, of course I am faster. An airship is nothing, even a battleship may not have me. Quick. He is so confident in his flying speed that he can even despise all means of flying transportation. What is an empty boat? I dare to stand side by side with the starship main ship. After hearing Gray's words, Yejing and Zhao Xingba showed bright smiles. That's it, let's take off. Take off? What take off? Gray said with a confused expression. Yejing looked matter of fact, of course we took off to the ruins of Gukan. Haven't you been there before? Oh, huh. Gray was slightly stunned at first, then looked shocked, his eyes widened, as if he wanted to eat someone. You want me to fly to the ruins of the Lonely City? Take you two with me. This is a magic city. The distance from the ruins of the Lonely City is across several land fragments and over a dozen cities. Damn it. He also carried 2 heavy bearers. Is this going to tire me out? Gray's face turned dark. Are you crazy, or am I crazy? You want me to fly if there are ready-made airships or battleships that don't sit on them? Yejing shrugged his shoulders. Aren't you fast? Or do you mean that as a man, you don't have the endurance? No. You say I can't. Gray was instantly furious and suddenly stretched out his wings. All four wings were white and flawless. This time he exploded with all his strength and stretched his wings to the maximum. Each wing is 3 meters long, thick, and soft. Humph. You two come up. Lie on my wings and let you see my endurance as a man. Gray snorted coldly and leaned down. Very easy to handle. Yejing and Zhao Xiangbang looked at each other and saw a hint of treachery in each other's eyes. They already knew how soft Gray's wings were, as soft as a Simmons mattress. Not only that, you can also enjoy the touch of the gentle breeze at high altitude and view the beautiful mountains and rivers. This is much more comfortable than being trapped in a small battleship. The two of them lay down on Gray's huge wings, with comfortable expressions on their faces. That's what it feels like. Take off. Feeling the two people pressing on his wings, Gray gritted his teeth and jumped with enough strength to fly into the sky. He took off instantly and flew directly to an altitude of several thousand meters. So cool. There is a gentle breeze blowing across my face, which is very relaxing. Finally I can take a good rest. It takes several hours to get to the ruins of the lonely city from here, which is also their rest time. You two are so cool. But you are exhausting me. When Gray heard the gentle snoring coming from the wings on his back, he couldn't help but feel angry and shook his wings violently. The violent trembling made Yejing and the two unable to sleep peacefully. Can you be more honest? Zhao Xiangbang said in a dissatisfied tone. Gray sneered, stop dreaming, I'm not feeling well, and you don't want to feel better either. A few hours passed in this swaying state, which meant that they did not suffer from vertigo, otherwise they would have been vomited by the shaking. A few hours later. Is this the ruins area of the lonely city? It feels so different from the last time I came here. Flying over the ruins area, Gray looked down and sighed. Don't forget, the last time you came here, Gukhan hadn't been hit by small planetary debris. Yejing slowly sat on Gray's wings and looked directly below. It was already in ruins down there. It was obvious that no one had been here for a long time and it was deserted. If we want to place the Hellfire, we must build some kind of large structure, right? Let's find a relatively flat place to land, Yejing said. After hovering in the low sky for more than 10 minutes, Gray finally found a landing point. This is a place in the north of the center of the ruins of the lonely city. It's so messy. It's all dust. After landing, Yejing was choked by the heavy dust and coughed repeatedly. No one has come for a long time. This place is almost a garbage dump. There are gravels everywhere, and the stones are covered with a thick layer of dust. Weeds are overgrown, and in some places the weeds have grown more than 1 meter high. Zhao Danggong asked, what did the dean say? Are we going to survey the place or the unusual movement? Yejing shook his head, I'm not sure either. It's probably about finding a good place and then seeing if there are any abnormalities in the ruins of the lonely city. He suggested, let's use this place as a base first, split up and go survey the surroundings. In any case, let's first investigate the ruins of a lonely city. After all, no one has been here for a long time, and no one knows if there are any amazing changes here. It would be bad if the ruins of the lonely city were regarded as a small base by the dark world. The three nodded. I'll go here. Then I'll go here. The three split up. 2 hours as the limit, come back here in 2 hours, if there is anything unusual, call me. Yejing walked towards the north. Half an hour later. It doesn't seem to be dangerous. Yejing walked while looking around. The upper layer was small planetary fragments that fell, and the lower layer was the old lonely city. There is nothing to see in the small planetary fragments. It is either rubble or weeds. As long as you look down from a high altitude, all the darkness is nowhere to hide. However, If it is the lonely city under the small planetary fragments, it may not be the same. It is completely pressed by a layer of planetary fragments, and scientific instruments cannot penetrate it. What exists in the lonely city below can only be known after entering. Yejing thought, stopped in front of a huge crack, and fell into a dilemma. This is a crack caused by the strong high-altitude impact after the small planetary fragments fell. The crack is several thousand meters long and 5 meters wide. There is no bottom and it is extremely dark. Below is the lonely city in the past. Do you want to go in and take a look? After hesitating for a while, Yejing still jumped down along the crack. Anyway, there is no danger, just go and take a look. There is no sunlight in the crack, it is dark and cold, and there is a whistling wind like a ghost from time to time below. Along the steep wall, Yejing groped all the way and it took him 5 or 6 minutes to reach the bottom. When he stepped on the land, an unknown emotion surged up from the bottom of his heart. This is my initial resurrection point. I didn't expect that I would have a chance to come back again. Yejing sighed, thinking back to the time when the lonely city was just destroyed. He seemed to have shed tears. Thinking about it now, it's really shameful. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 484. The lonely city that was once a human city is now in ruins. Just less than 2 years is enough for a city to be forgotten by the world. Hundreds of thousands of people escaped from the isolated city, and I don't know how many people still remember the isolated city. I don't know if anyone has returned to the ruins of Gukhan in the past 2 years to reminisce about the past. It is estimated that as time goes by, the name of the ruins area of Gukhan will be changed again, right? Yejing stood on the ground with both feet. The gravel on the ground almost made him lose his balance and fall. He glanced at the surrounding abandoned buildings and couldn't help but said, "This should be the city center stage, right?" He saw a familiar building not far in front of him. Although it was collapsed and dilapidated, he still recognized part of it. This is the city lord's mansion, the place where the city lord worked in those days, and also the center point of the entire isolated city. He looked up, feeling terrified. Less than 5 meters above, there was a large piece of small planetary debris. If something happened to crash down on it, he didn't think he would be able to survive it. It's a bit scary. Yejing raised his head and shrank his neck, muttering in his mouth. The distance between the small planet fragments and the isolated city was only 5 meters, which made him a little afraid to take vigorous action. Let's take a look first. Yejing kicked the gravel at his feet, put one hand on the abandoned wall next to him, and walked forward cautiously. This means there is no drone, otherwise he would definitely take aerial photos of the current situation here. Now that there is no road in Gukhan, Yejing can only find his own way. While kicking the gravel at his feet, he walked towards the city lord's palace. The resistance to movement was huge and the movement speed was very slow. It seems like no one has come back. Yejing looked around at the thick dust and overgrown weeds. Each piece of information made him feel relieved. It seems that this place has been forgotten, right? The dean was really overthinking when he asked them to investigate. How could anyone come to a place like this? However, this idea was changed 10 minutes later. 10 minutes later. When Yejing walked into the abandoned city lord's mansion, he was immediately shocked by the scene in front of him. This. What is this? Yejing's pupils shrank sharply, looking in disbelief, his mouth opened slightly, and his eyes widened. Outside the city lord's mansion, there were no footprints on the thick layers of dust, and there were no traces of anyone coming. But inside the city lord's mansion, it's completely different. The abandoned city lord's mansion was cleaned up at some point. The entire interior of the city lord's mansion is clean and tidy, without any dust or mess at all. It's like someone actually lives here. What shocked Yejing the most was not this. What shocked him greatly was that a large area of open space had been cleared. In the middle of the open space, there is a black pot standing. A big black pot. Flames burned underneath the black pot, a large amount of food was cooking in the pot, and hot white steam rose into the sky. Someone is humming, making hot pot here. And not in the past continuous tense, but in the present tense. Now, at this moment, the hot pot is cooking. Someone is here. Yejing was horrified and subconsciously became vigilant. After taking a quick look around, he was about to retreat, but it was already too late. Someone is coming. Yejing's heart moved and he suddenly became anxious. He felt several auras coming towards this direction. And we are about to enter the city lord's mansion. What to do? Yejing couldn't help but look panicked. It's too late to run. No, we can't just sit back and wait for death. Yejing glanced to the side and hid behind the broken wall of soup scraps. Then he squatted down, held his breath and stopped all actions. A few seconds later. Trigger invisible wings, enter invisible state, shield breath, unable to move, consume 1% of spiritual energy per second, invalid beyond a large realm. Tip: when the abyss energy is sensed, the abyss energy consumption is 1% of the aura. Invisible Tima. This is a passive skill that he has almost forgotten. I haven't used it for a long time, but I didn't expect to use it now. After he became invisible, 5 auras came in from outside the city lord's mansion, shouting something loudly. But when these 5 people were let in, Yejing breathed a sigh of relief. He felt that there were 4 people at the 9th level of the Destiny realm and 1 at the 1st level of the Transcendent realm. There happened to be no one who was 1 level above him. Have you heard? Boss and the others are back from the Demon City. Isn't it normal to come back? That's the boss. The number 1 existence in the world. Boss seems to have brought back a new energy from the Demon City, the same energy used by Pluto. What's the use? It seems to be able to break the disaster for a half-saint in the 3 disaster realm. Oh, then there's nothing wrong with us. Not necessarily, we can't use it, but Brother Hay can, right? Brother Hay is not far from the half-saint, right? It's still a little short of the mark. Let's try to break through 3 disasters within 10 years. A familiar voice reached Yejing's ears, surprising him. Who is this? How do you feel like you heard it somewhere? Yejing frowned and thought, and the long-forgotten memory suddenly flooded into his brain. Damn! Isn't this the little black god of the Black God Society? Yejing was shocked. Why is the Black God here? The Black God Society was a dark world organization that made trouble in the Demon City before the establishment of the New Moon Empire. And the Black God is the chief of the Black God Society. No way. Didn't the Black God Society disappear because it robbed the first expeditionary force? I thought the Black God Society had been disbanded and divided by the Dark World. I didn't expect it to still be alive and hiding here. At that time, when Yejing and Gray were still very weak, they had met the Black God once. The Black God, who had already entered the Destiny realm at a young age, beat him and Gray severely at that time. If Jizuku hadn't arrived, they would have died. I didn't expect to meet the Black God here. Yejing frowned tightly. Why did the Black God appear here? Is this the latest base camp of the Black God Society? Also, the boss they mentioned before, is it Emperor Wu Tian? Sure enough, he was recruited by the Dark Realm. At the same time, he secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Fortunately, it was really lucky. Fortunately, he was cautious and listened to the dean's words. He came down to check and found Haishan and the others. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable. If he really waited until the hellfire moved into the ruins of the lonely city before discovering it, everything would be over. Maybe he would lose a lot of hellfire in a sneak attack, and there might even be casualties. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bouletin G. Bayet. Chapter 485. Black God led his men around the hot pot and said casually, I heard that the boss almost overturned this time. If he hadn't saved a hand before going to the demon city, it would have been difficult to escape from the demon city. After setting the tableware, the number one subordinate took a large piece of beef from the hot pot and threw it into his mouth. The number two subordinate was shocked. No way. With the strength of the boss, he is still in danger. Those in the dark world know the strength of Emperor Wuxian best. It is not simply unfathomable and can be described. 6 demonic cities are surrounded by semi-saints. Even the boss will have a hard time escaping. Black God said calmly, what's more, Anthony, the great arcanist, and the dean of the Demon Academy are here in person. Why is there such a big fuss? The energy boss brought back from the demon city is probably very rare, right? Nonsense. The energy that can help break through the 3 disaster realms must be rare. Thug number 4 said contemptuously. After a pause, he sighed, I really don't know when boss's plan will be completed. We have been shrinking in this shabby place for a year. When will it end? I don't want to stay in this lousy place anymore. Not to mention game, there's not even a woman in it. Who isn't? I haven't eaten anything fishy for a year, and I'm going to die from suffocation. The 4 men were eating hot pot while grumbling and venting their dissatisfaction. They, not just him and the others, but nearly a few hundred people were hiding in the ruins of the isolated city. Except for necessary resources, others were not allowed to go out, and they had been suppressing it for a year. Snored. Black God suddenly made a cold sound and glanced at the 4 of them lightly. The oppressive gaze forced them to not say anything. Black God said in a calm tone, we cannot guess the decision of the highest level. Let alone 1 year, it will be 100 years. You must hold it back as long as you are allowed to hold it in. If outsiders hear these words, you will all die. I'll pretend I've never heard this before, and I'll be careful about what I say and do in the future. The middle-aged monk, who was in his 60s or 70s, was lectured by the Black God who was less than 30 years old and said nothing. Even the hot pot in front of him no longer smelled good. Let's eat. They used to be members of the Black God Society, but the Black God is no longer tolerant towards them and usually never gets angry. After all, the Black God Society, which had been disbanded, was his last team. They were eating hot pot leisurely, and Yejing, who was hiding on the other side, was not in a hurry. If it were before, he would already be thinking about how to escape. But since the furnace changed into a black and white cat, everything has been fine. The passive skill of invisible wings consumes a huge amount of spiritual energy and abyss energy, and the total energy in his body is not enough for 20 minutes. But since the forge was upgraded to black and white cats, many restrictions in the forge space have been lifted. One of these points contains energy. He took a large amount of hellfire in the Earth's core space and put it into the furnace space. These hellfires can provide him with a steady stream of abyss energy. Even if Haishan and the others eat hot pot here for 3 days and 3 nights, he can still survive. Yejing thought to himself, now he should think about how to send a message to Gray, asking him to inform the dean, and call people to blockade this place as soon as possible, and catch all these people from the dark world. Only Yejing forgot one thing. It only took 5 seconds from the time he noticed the aura of the living person to the time he hid himself. And in these 5 seconds, there is no time for him to eliminate the traces along the way. When He Shen first came in, he didn't think about someone coming in because no other strangers had been seen in the ruins of the lonely city for nearly a year. But when He Jin casually glanced at a shallow mark on the ground next to him, His expression suddenly changed slightly. Several thoughts flashed through Black God's mind in an instant. These are footprints. An outsider has come in. Black God's heart skipped a beat, and his expression darkened. He suddenly raised his hand, attracting the attention of all four men. Then, he made a show of booing. To be able to hide here with Heishen for a year, the other four subordinates are not fools. When Kurakama made a booing gesture, the other four people looked puzzled, but immediately shut up. When will the boss come? Is there any news? The sudden silence in the whole place will definitely make the enemy have doubts. After Higami said something casually, he pointed to the footprints next to him. The four subordinates looked at Higami's hand, and their expressions suddenly changed. Someone has infiltrated their territory. What about that? The higher UPS haven't said anything yet. After the number one subordinate was slightly startled, he quickly reacted and took a bite. At the same time, the five people looked at each other and made eye contact. Black God's eyes were like a torch, and he followed the footprints and finally stopped at the broken wall with soup residue on the far right. I think it won't be long before we are recalled, right? After Black God finished speaking, he made a mouth gesture. Where is it? The number one subordinate nodded solemnly, and with a flash of his hand, an obsidian broadsword appeared in his palm. I really don't know when I will be free. A ruthless look flashed in the eyes of the number one subordinate. After gritting his teeth and saying a word, he took a sudden breath and silently gathered strength in his right arm. After holding the black knife tightly, he threw it towards Yejing. Aha! The sound of breaking through the air suddenly arose, and the distance of more than 10 meters was passed in the blink of an eye. The black knife left a black mark in the air, cutting through the space. This distance, this speed, did not give Yejing a chance to react. When the sound of breaking through the air sounded, Yejing's expression changed. He was discovered. Oops! He could not react in time. Yejing's body had just moved a little, and the black knife had already smashed the broken wall and pierced his back. Puff! A muffled sound. It did not penetrate Yejing's back. But it also caused fatal damage. The way of the orphan is broken, refreshed in 1 hour. The shield was broken successfully. The black knife under number one stopped less than a millimeter away from Yejing's back, and just stayed in the air quietly. After staying in the air for 1 second, it fell heavily and smashed a deep pit in the ground. He was attacked by someone. A layer of shield was lost as soon as he made a move. Yejing got rid of the invisible wings and revealed his true form. Who is there? Get out! Heishen and his 4 men instantly entered combat mode. Yejing took a long breath, stood up slowly, turned around slowly, and looked at them calmly. A child. The number one man was slightly stunned when he saw Yejing's appearance. Heishen frowned. Why did he feel a little familiar? I said I was passing by, do you believe it? Yejing looked at them directly without any fear. Passing by. Number 2 accepted the sneer and said, you passed by and hid here? You passed by and made all 5 of us not detect your breath. You are fooling a fool. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 486. You are Yejing, the newest director of the board of directors. The 4th subordinate also felt familiar, as if he had seen him somewhere before. After thinking for a while, he suddenly realized. Director of the board of directors? Just such a little brat. The 1st subordinate said in surprise. He pointed at Yejing with a look of contempt. Just such a little thing, is he worthy? He. Yejing sneered, you have the nerve to say that to me with your ordinary face. Yejing. Heishen frowned and thought for a while, then a gleam of light flashed in his eyes. We have greeted each other before, right? He remembered that he had met Yejing in the Demon City, and there was another little ghost at that time. At that time, He almost killed the two little ghosts in one go. It's a pity that Jizuku arrived at too timely. I didn't expect you to get to this point. He Shen looked at Yejing with interest. He really didn't expect that Yejing, who didn't even have the qualifications to stand in front of him a year ago, would actually come to such a place. Black God gave his four men a look and asked them to act. The four men understood and surrounded Yejing in 2 or 3 steps. The number one man smiled coldly, "Little devil, since you are here, don't think about leaving." Huh. Yejing breathed a sigh of relief. He glanced at the 5 men of Black God and said calmly, "Are you sure you want to fight here?" Yejing pointed upwards. What was there? It was asteroid fragments. They were very powerful. Once they fought in such a dangerous place, the sky might fall and the earth might crack. If the small planet fragments were knocked down, the 6 of them would surely die. When they saw Yejing pointing at the top of their heads, the faces of the 5 men of Black God changed slightly. If the small planet fragments were knocked down, their losses would be even greater. After all, Yejing was only one person, but they had hundreds of people hiding in the lonely city. However, they were unwilling to let Yejing go obediently now. The head was delivered to their face. Could they still let him go? Haishan stared at Yejing. A fresh director was delivered to his face, which was equivalent to a free credit. Then can you please surrender? Haishan suggested with a smile. Yejing smiled and shook his head. How is it possible? If you have the guts, come and catch me. I'll let you he. As soon as the voice fell, Yejing suddenly exploded and jumped towards the face of the 4th subordinate. The short distance was the distance of explosion and killing. The first to strike is the strongest, and the last to strike will suffer. Yejing took advantage of the sneak attack and stood less than 1 meter in front of the 4th subordinate before he could react. A punch was thrown, breaking the situation violently. Oops! The 4th subordinate's face changed. He didn't expect Yejing to attack first at this time. He hurriedly spread his arms and blocked his chest, trying to use the force to resist Yejing's punch. Although he was attacked by surprise, he was not panicked at all. After all, in his eyes, he was at the 9th level of the Destiny Realm, while Yejing was at the 1st level of the Destiny Realm, and the difference between the two was huge. However, when Yejing's fist hit his arms, he understood. Some gaps cannot be made up for by realm. Yejing punched out, and a series of prompt sounds rang in his mind. Triggering the double attack max, each first attack on the enemy causes 5 times the damage. Triggering the bleeding max, the attacked person enters the bleeding state, and loses 10% of the maximum health value in 10 seconds. The vitality cannot be cured. Triggering the poisoning max, the attacked person enters the poisoning state, causing a vitality consumption of 10% of the maximum health value in 10 seconds. The passive skill is triggered 3 times in a row. In an instant, the face of the number 4 subordinate changed instantly, and his eyes widened as if his eyeballs were about to pop out. His arms were dented directly under Yejing's fist, and were completely broken from bones to skin. A bloody mark appeared on his chest for no reason, and the blood could not be stopped. Boom! After a brief pause, the body of the number 4 subordinate was like being hit by a shell, and rushed to the back. His body penetrated the wall of the city lord's mansion in the blink of an eye, penetrated for hundreds of meters, and smashed more than a dozen buildings before falling heavily, and his life or death was unknown. This punch, this 5-fold happy punch, directly beat the number 4 subordinate unable to move. This 5-fold happy punch made the faces of Haishan and his other 3 subordinates gloomy. Shocked. Shocked. Very shocked. The extremely shocked expressions froze on their faces, and they were upset for a long time. How is it possible? The number 4 subordinate, who was at the peak of the Fate Realm, was beaten to death with 1 punch, so what about them? Can they escape from this punch? Whether it is punching power, speed, or strength, none of them can be ignored. Just one punch made them put away their contempt, and looked at Yejing with a serious face, raising the danger level to the highest level. However, when they moved their eyes from the fourth subordinate whose life or death was unknown to Yejing, they were suddenly stunned. Where is the person? Wasn't he here just now? How could he disappear? Of course he ran away a long time ago. Nonsense, if he didn't run, I would wait for your analysis. Yejing's punch not only crippled one of the fourth subordinates, but also opened up a passage. This passage is his escape route. Yejing ran away in an instant. He turned around and ran along the gap without even a pause. Are you waiting to be besieged if you don't run? Yejing ran away, and by the time they reacted, he had already run 100 meters away, pulling away a distance. Chase. He Shen's eyes flashed with murderous intent, and he gritted his teeth. With a whoosh, he chased him directly. His speed was faster than Yejing, and he pulled away in an instant. The other three people also caught up. So fast. Yejing felt the breath getting closer and closer behind him, cursed in his heart, and couldn't help but speed up his pace. There's a crack over there. Yejing's eyes lit up, and there was a crack leading to the top a few hundred meters ahead. As long as he went up, he could contact Gray. Once he contacted Gray, he could let Gray contact the Dean and others. But at that time, let alone chasing him, He Shen and others would definitely be too busy to take care of themselves. This was when he got away. Don't even think about running. He Shen growled, and suddenly turned over, stepping on the bottom of the asteroid fragments above, and was in an upside-down position. Yes, upside down. After He Shen stepped on the top with both feet, his legs tightened, and he jumped suddenly, directly in front of Yejing. Bang! Yejing, who was intercepted, had no choice but to stop, his face sank. 100 meters away. How to break through the blockade? The next second after he stopped, the three people behind him also intercepted him. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 487. Attack from both front and back. Yejing's heart sank. He couldn't stop in a place like this. Once he stopped, everything would be over when their people got ready. We must break through the Black God's blockade. Yejing's whole body exuded a fierce color, without hiding it at all, he directly radiated the abyss energy. The suppression of spiritual energy by the abyss energy is his advantage. Not many people know about the energy of the abyss. Even Black God and others have only heard of the name. Is this new energy? Black God felt the suppressive force from the spiritual energy in his body, and couldn't help but have a haze in his eyes. Yejing wrapped the abyss energy around his arms. Now that he had no weapons, he directly used hand-to-hand combat to resolve the battle. The dark aura surrounded his arms, he clenched his fists and smashed towards the Black God. That's it? Black Snake's pupils tightened, and he felt a hint of danger from this fist. It was this punch that beat No. 4's subordinate to the point of death. Give it a try. The Black God placed his palms together, with his palms facing outward, and an extremely dark and terrifying aura came from his palms. Black God energy. This completely enhanced dark energy tightly protects the palm of the Black God. He is very confident in his own strength, very confident. He believed that he could completely block Yejing. Head-on confrontation? Yejing sneered secretly, just what I wanted. Once he is separated, he has no chance of winning, but in close combat, he is really not afraid of the Black God. A punch hit Black God's palm, and the powerful impact shattered the surrounding buildings, and the strong fluctuations made the space tremble. The first attack against the enemy triggers the double hit max, causing 5 times the damage. 5 times the damage. 5 times more powerful. Not only that, he had already disabled No. 4 with one punch before even using the abyss energy. This time he was facing the Black God. He did not dare to show any signs of neglect and directly used the energy of the abyss to try to break the situation with one punch. So strong. A look of horror appeared on Haishan's face, his arms trembled violently, and his body involuntarily slipped behind him. The dark energy in his palms dissipated in an instant. With 5 times the happiness, a blood mark appeared on Black God's palm. The blood mark spread and spread all over his palm in an instant. The severe pain shook his palm, and it suddenly fell. Suppressed. After a short intertwining, in just seconds, Black God's body suddenly hit the small planet fragments above like a detached cannonball. Boom. The powerful attack and impact shook the small planet fragments slightly, and rubble fell from the sky. That's it now. While the Black God was stuck on the asteroid fragments and unable to move, Yejing rushed out suddenly, got into the crack in the blink of an eye, and climbed upwards. Damn it! Black God's eyes were full of killing intent. He didn't expect that during the real confrontation, this punch would be so difficult to receive. He stepped hard on the asteroid fragments with his legs and jumped out. Dark blast. At the same time, he got into the crack, and the aura on Black God exploded with a bang, and countless dark spiritual energy exploded towards Yejing. Every time the dark aura moves half a meter, it will produce a huge explosion, causing the entire crack to tremble and tremble. A series of explosions sounded from behind Yejing, causing him to subconsciously turn his head and glance. Yejing looked at the explosion that was chasing after him, and his heart suddenly tightened. The cracks on both sides were blasted into craters. The power of this explosion appears to be extremely powerful in such a small area. Damn it! Aren't you afraid of burying both of us with such a big explosion? Yejing twisted around and waved, and a stream of abyss energy emitted from his body, dispersing the rapidly exploding dark energy in one breath. This kind of energy is cheating. Black God's eyes turned red when he saw that his enhanced dark aura completely dissipated after contact with the abyss energy. Envy, jealousy, and hatred. His dark aura and abyss energy are like an egg hitting a stone, vulnerable. This is cheating. If there was no abyss energy, he would definitely be able to keep Yejing. If I had this abyssal energy. Black God's face was gloomy, and he spread out the dark spiritual energy as if he didn't believe in evil. Realm of Darkness. Field. An exclusive skill for the extraordinary realm. The seemingly infinite dark spiritual energy shrouded Yejing. Several torrents of spiritual energy flowed past Yejing, from top to bottom, from beginning to end, drawing the entire crack into the realm of darkness. Darkness shrouded, not even a ray of light. In the entire realm of darkness, only Yejing and Haishan were left. It's actually a field. Yejing leaned forward and stepped on the inner wall of the crack, with a solemn look on his face. In a person's field, a field caster will greatly improve a person's strength. Moreover, the dark aura in the dark realm is endless. Yejing was like a mouse surrounded, with nowhere to escape. I think you have more abyss energy, or I have more dark aura. The Black God sneered, and endless dark aura enveloped Yejing. Bang bang bang. Bang bang bang. Every strand of dark aura contains huge explosive power. Dark energy blast. There is an explosion sound in every aura. Damn it! I actually want to fight this idea. Yejing's face turned dark, he was going to blow him up alive. Each explosion had the power of a small nuclear bomb explosion, making Yejing's heart tremble. Bang 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 bang. Every burst of dark energy exploding around him would cause Yejing's body to suffer a little damage. This kind of damage adds up, damaging his body bit by bit. Let's see how long you can hold on. When Haishan saw Yejing at the center of the explosion, he couldn't help but sneered, "Let me see how you escape." Escape? Yejing took a deep breath. Compared with energy, I'm really not afraid of you. Black God didn't know that Yejing was cheating on him. The hellfire in the furnace space is his perpetual motion machine. A large amount of hellfire can continuously provide abyss energy. Abyssal energy like a sea surged out of his body, forming an abyss protective shield between his body and the outside world, completely isolating the dark energy blast. Since the abyss energy can protect us, it would be better to escape as soon as possible. Yejing looked up at the sky, and the sky in the realm of darkness was filled with chaos. Isn't it just a field? As long as we break through, wouldn't it be fine? Yejing stepped on a wall with both feet, jumped violently upward, and his whole body wrapped in the energy of the abyss jumped suddenly, soaring into the sky. The power is boundless. His body was like an arrow, rushing towards the barrier of the dark realm. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 488. Regarding the blockade of the domain, Yejing used such a violent and powerful method to break it, which really surprised Haishan. But it is this kind of rampage that is the most beneficial and effective way to get rid of it. Especially the suppression of the abyss energy gave Yejing even more magical suppression of the dark realm. Yejing was like a rocket taking off, drawing a straight black line in mid-air, and finally slammed into the barrier of the dark realm. Bang! Just such a collision caused the entire dark realm to tremble, and the contact area between the two instantly shattered with a black mark, as if a crack had been made in the mirror. Bang! So hard. Although a crack was created in the dark realm, at the same time, most of the abyss energy in Yejing's body was dissipated. As a last resort, Yejing once again extracted the abyss energy from the furnace space, extracting it continuously. At this moment, he was very dissatisfied with the proportion of abyss energy in his body. Too little, too much trouble. It doesn't even account for 20%, and there is too little abyss energy that he can use at one time. You actually want to smash the dark realm to pieces. Black God was shocked when he saw Yejing's actions, especially when he saw a crack in the dark realm caused by Yejing. I had thought that the energy of the abyss was very strong, but I didn't expect it to be so powerful. Damn it! So envious. Black God expressed envy and hatred for the super powerful abyss energy. If it were given to him, it would more than double his strength. You can't do this anymore. Black God was forced by Yejing and had no choice but to protect the dark realm and prevent him from escaping. He originally wanted to focus on Yejing, but now he could only mend the net first. Dark Aura. The Black God flew and stuck to the side of the dark realm, continuously providing the dark aura in his body to the dark realm to repair the scars in the dark realm. In the realm of darkness, dark aura can be continuously produced, and this dark aura is fed back into the realm of darkness by the Black God. This thing is also a perpetual motion machine. This is a battle between two perpetual motion machines. It's just a pity. Perpetual motion machines are also divided into parts and hardware. A Yejing who regards the energy of the abyss as a perpetual motion machine. A dark god who treats dark aura as a perpetual motion machine. The difference between the two is obvious. Although two people are worth half a pound, they are only half a pound of scrap metal and 80 ounces of gold. In less than a minute, the balance of the dark realm was broken. Tiny cracks appeared from the realm of darkness. When a crack appears, it means that the Black God can no longer withstand it. A series of cracks spread in all directions, and in the blink of an eye, an ice crack was drawn across the field of darkness. Now, Yejing exerted enough strength, gritted his teeth and rushed all the abyss energy towards a point of abyss energy in one go. Concentrate and reach the top. Bang 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 bang. Boom. After a series of subtle explosions, a hole suddenly opened in the dark realm in front of Yejing. Finally succeeded. Yejing looked excited and hurriedly got out of the dark realm, completely out of the dark realm. Damn it! When Black God saw Yejing disappearing into his domain, his face darkened and he felt extremely uncomfortable. It turned out to be the domain of darkness that had been broken in this way. How disgusting! If it weren't for the abyss energy, he believed he could completely stop Yejing. Receive. The Black God suppressed the depression in his heart and directly took back all the dark realm, and all the dark spiritual energy was taken back into his body. Feeling the dark spiritual energy filling his body, Black God said that he had confidence again. He looked at Yejing's back with hazy eyes, gritted his teeth and chased after him again. Yejing jumped into the sky 3 times in a row and jumped directly onto the fragments of the small planet. Finally out. Yejing had no time to sigh and rushed to the stronghold set up before without hesitation. He didn't dare to pause for a moment, because the terrifying aura behind him was chasing after him. While escaping, he took out his cell phone and quickly contacted Gray. A second later, Gray's voice came from the other end of the phone. Hey, where have you been? Why couldn't I get through your phone just now? Hoo ho ho. Yejing's rapid breathing came through the phone, wheezing and wheezing. He spoke very quickly. Something happened. Contact the Dean immediately. This is the stronghold of the Dark World. Ask the Dean to send someone over quickly. What? A stronghold in the Dark Realm? Gray was so shocked that he almost jumped up in fright. He hurriedly asked, Are you okay? Where are you? I'll pick you up. He also heard something bad and anxious from Yejing's tone. Yejing, I'm rushing to our arrangement point. Please contact the Dean as soon as possible. Gray nodded repeatedly. I understand, I will help you right away. He knew what he was doing, so it was natural to contact the Dean first. Yejing's words should be fine, right? The Black God behind him could clearly see who Yejing was talking to on the phone. He knew that Yejing had already contacted someone, and he felt itchy in his heart, and he had a hint of retreat. Once the council sent people, he and his men, as well as other people in the Dark World, would not be able to run away. Suddenly, Black God stopped, looking at Yejing who was going away with a gloomy face, struggling in his heart. Is it more important to hunt down Yejing? Or is the base of the Dark World more important? This is needless to say, right? Once the base of the Dark World is surrounded and killed and injured, his position in the Dark World will be greatly reduced. Damn it! I will let you go for now. I will kill you when we meet next time. After struggling for a while, Black God glared at Yejing with a murderous look in his eyes, turned around and returned to the crack again. He was going to notify everyone to retreat. All items and information files were taken away, and those that could not be taken away were burned, and there would be no trace left for the Demon City Council. Yejing, who was still running hard here, suddenly realized that the breath of Black God who was chasing him behind him dissipated and disappeared without a trace. Yejing turned his head and suddenly looked confused. He slowly stopped and stood still. Where is he? Why can't I see him? Did he run away? Yejing muttered softly and shook his head. It seemed that his phone call made Haishan feel apprehensive, so he went back to pack up and run away. At the same time, Yejing also breathed a sigh of relief. The crisis was resolved. He began to slow down his pace and walk towards the place agreed with Gray. Next, it depends on whether the Dean and his team come faster or Haishan and his team retreat faster. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 489. Yejing. Are you okay? Gray's voice came from the sky. Yejing looked up and saw a birdman descending from the sky with its wings spread out. Gray stood in front of Yejing, fully armed, with a solemn and cautious look on his face. His eyes couldn't stop glancing behind Yejing, for fear that enemies would suddenly appear from nowhere and surround them. Stop looking, they're all running away. Yejing rolled his eyes, patted Gray on the shoulder and said, "Gray." Gray was surprised. "Where are the enemies? Didn't you say there are enemies?" "I called to inform them, how could they still sit still? They all went back to pack up and run away. Those in the dark world are not afraid of them, but they are afraid of the support of the council. Once time passes, we won't know who is encircling and suppressing whom. Such a high-risk decision is not something Black God can make. He doesn't dare." Hearing Yejing say that everyone had escaped, Gray couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. In fact, he was still worried in his heart. He had some idea of his own strength. If they really wanted to fight, he might not be able to play a big role. But now that he is no longer fighting, he is quite happy. Gray said, "I didn't expect that there was something strange in the ruins of the lonely city. Fortunately, the Dean made an unnecessary move, otherwise the consequences would be disastrous." Yejing nodded, "Yes, it would be dangerous if we didn't find out until the hellfire moved over. Fortunately, he was cautious and went down to take a look. Otherwise it would be really dangerous." Yejing said, "Let's wait now until the council's support comes." All the strength in his body suddenly released, and he sat on the ground, breathing heavily. "I was almost exhausted just now. From entering the invisible wings to block his own aura, to breaking through the siege of 4 subordinates, and finally breaking through the dark realm of the Black God. Although he had done so much, only a few minutes had passed. The fierce fighting within a few minutes brought his physical strength to its limit. Hoo ho ho." Yejing wiped the sweat from his head and said with lingering fear, "I'm really afraid that hundreds of people will suddenly appear and surround me." While he was resting, he suddenly felt a huge tremor coming from the underground, shaking the entire small planet fragment. Yejing's heart moved. "Is this? It seems like something is coming out of the ground." Gray looked shocked. "Such a powerful shock. It's like a big earthquake." He hurriedly grabbed Yejing's arm and said solemnly, "Quick. It's too dangerous on the ground, let's go to heaven." Yejing nodded. In the base camp, there was a strong sense of danger, so it was best to avoid it honestly. Gray took Yejing's arm and rushed into the sky. He flew high and hid directly in the clouds. The next second the two of them hid in the clouds, a huge crack suddenly opened in the small planet fragments covering the lonely city. The location of the crack is exactly where Yejing and the others were before. If Gray hadn't pulled Yejing up to the sky, I really don't know what the consequences would have been. "Look. What is that?" Gray's eyes widened, his mouth grew wide, and there was a look of horror on his face. From underneath the crack's small planetary fragments, something suddenly bulged. The ground began to collapse from tens to hundreds of meters. Then a huge creature was revealed. Yejing looked shocked. "Oh my God. What is that? Damn you. Isn't this cheating?" From under the collapsed ground, a black light first emerged, and then a huge machine was revealed. It was a robot with black light all over its body and made entirely of obsidian. "Wrong. That's a mecha. Damn it." When Yejing saw the mecha several hundred meters tall, his face turned green. "This is the world of monks. What's the point of giving me the entire mecha?" A huge mecha made entirely of obsidian is unveiled. Its limbs are sharply angular, and there are more than a dozen huge cannon barrels hanging behind it. The terrifying energy made Yejing and Gray's hearts tremble. Hey, hey, hey. Did you see it? What is that? Isn't that something in the game? It was actually made by man. Gray was completely confused and stammered. Yejing looked through the clouds at the behemoth below. His face was solemn and he murmured, "Is this the hidden trump card of the Black God Society? It feels so strong. Impeccable." The terrifying energy coming from the huge mecha made him feel tremendous pressure. The strength of obsidian made even him find it very difficult. What's more, Not to mention there are more than a dozen cannons that seem to be destroying the world. How on earth did they transport this kind of thing down there? Gray said to himself with dull eyes. Such a large mecha can actually be transported to the isolated city through small planet fragments. Yejing took a deep breath and said, it should have been transported there using a space ring. But he went down and took a look, and found that the distance between the top and bottom was only 5 meters. Yejing looked uncertain and said, could it be that they hollowed out the entire lonely city? Obsidian mechas emerged from the lonely city one by one and flew into the distance. Its speed was so fast that even Yejing couldn't catch up with it. He could only vaguely see a black mark. Strength, speed, hardness, destructive power, and oppression. This is a mecha that completely crushes humans. This is a mecha that is completely driven by spiritual energy. Yejing couldn't help but wonder, what if this mecha uses abyss energy? Gray looked horrified, too scary, right? There is more than one such terrifying mecha. There are 13 obsidian mechas flying out from under the lonely city alone. How many of them did the Dark Realm hide in Blue Star? It can even be said that it is not just Blue Star. At this moment, Yejing deeply felt the power of the Dark Realm. It is worthy of being a force that can still survive the comprehensive encirclement of the Council, and the trump cards are one after another. Gray said, if we hadn't seen it by chance, we don't know how long this thing would have been hidden. Yejing nodded, I understand why Black God retreated so quickly, no wonder he hid such a powerful weapon. If this was intercepted by the Council, Wu Tian would probably skin Black God. This is why Black God evacuated decisively. Yejing is just a director, and he can't be compared with Obsidian. Gray looked disappointed and sighed, it's a pity that the Dean and others came too slowly, otherwise they could really intercept it. If this weapon was intercepted, their credit would be great again. It doesn't matter, anyway, we don't have the ability to stop it. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 490. Just like that, Yejing and Gray watched the obsidian mecha from the dark world go away, and they were unable to stop it. After all the obsidian mechas flew away, the space above the ruins of the lonely city suddenly fluctuated. After the space trembled, the Dean appeared in front of the two of them with a group of people. Where are the enemies in the dark realm you mentioned? The moment the Dean arrived at the ruins area of Gukan, he started his own detection. The entire detection range was the entire area of the ruins area of Gukan. However, he did not find the aura of other characters except Yejing and Gray. Yejing shook his head and sighed, I came late, they all ran away. You retreated so quickly. The Dean glanced at the desolate ruins of the lonely city, squinted and murmured. He looked at Yejing and the two with admiration, and praised, well done, I didn't expect that there are really enemies hiding here. It's more than that. Yejing walked to the Dean and whispered, we have another amazing discovery, which should be a secret weapon in the dark world. The Dean frowned and said, what secret weapon? Yejing said in a low voice, a mecha made entirely of obsidian. It's hundreds of meters tall. Mecha? Obsidian mecha. There was a look of confusion on the Dean's face, what is this? He was getting older and could not bear the impact of new things, so he asked, is that kind of thing strong? Is it as strong as me? Sweat. Yejing had a cold sweat on his face, how is it possible? Speechless, let alone mechas, how many creatures in the entire solar system are stronger than you? Are you kidding me? Yejing said solemnly, although I can't compare with you, the obsidian mecha we saw should have the strength of the extraordinary realm, and it is also mass-produced. Supernormal realm. At this time, the Dean became serious. Just a mecha in the transcendent realm would not surprise him, but if it was a mass-produced mecha, it would be hard to say. Because mass production means that as long as you have the materials, you can make it infinitely. This is a bit scary. There was no way to deal with it for a while, and the dean sighed and said, then let's ignore it for now. Let's discuss the issue of the dark world after this matter is over. The most important thing now is to move the Kiln Mountains and arrange the hellfire. The dean turned to look at the other people he brought and said, let's go back first. Although I was a little disappointed that I ran away in vain, there was nothing I could do about it. Now that the enemy is gone, it's time for them to get back to work. You continue to search this area, and try to search the entire ruined city area. After the dean left these words, he led the people back into the space crack. It is estimated that in 5 hours, the Kiln Mountains will move to the ruins of Gukan. Please pay attention. After the dean and the others left, Yejing and Gray fell into deep thought. Do you still need to explore? It shouldn't be necessary, right? No, why do I feel like I forgot something? What did you forget? A trace of doubt flashed in the eyes of the two people, and after looking at each other, they suddenly realized. Where's Zhao horizontal bar? Where's Zhao horizontal bar? Only then did they realize that one person was missing. Zhao Xingban, who came with them, has not shown up yet. Did he encounter any danger? Or did you not see the mecha in the sky at all? Gray worriedly said, he couldn't have been kidnapped by those people from the dark world, right? It is possible that the people from the dark world accidentally captured Zhao Xingbang when they were escaping, and then took him away casually. Let's get in touch first. Yejing nodded, took out his cell phone, and contacted Zhao Xingbang. Hey, where did you go? Zhao Xingba's excited voice came from the phone. Damn it! I found a ruins. Stop talking. I'm going to dig. It's been a long time since I dug someone's ancestral grave. I'm a little excited. Yejing and Gray had dark expressions on their faces. This is an occupational disease. Yejing suddenly felt at ease. He remembered that there really was a ruin on this small planet fragment. A blue lotus relic and a series of semi-finished lotus statues are in a certain space. At that time, it seemed that Xiao Qinglian was resurrected from that ruin. In this case, it must be a relic of a previous era. Yejing thought for a while and said, where are you? Let's go find you. I'll send you a location. Then a location map appeared on Yejing's phone. Let's go over there. The distance was not far, only a few kilometers. When Yejing and the others walked over, they were shocked. What is this? Gray has never seen it, but Yejing has. This area, within a radius of 1 kilometer, is filled with half-finished statues. Wrong. This is the finished lotus statue. Completely different from what Yejing saw. Pure white lotus statues stood quietly in front of them, and there were 36 of them. Each lotus statue is 20 meters high. What shocked Yejing and Gray the most was not this. Rather, they saw a tiny figure on the tallest one in the center of the 36 statues. That small figure exuded a glistening green light and exuded a very soft natural aura. Is this Xiao Qinglian? Yejing exclaimed, he never expected to see Xiao Qinglian again in such a place. Since the battle on Pluto, everyone has dispersed. They only said hello to Xiao Qinglian and then returned to the demon city. Yejing and Gray were both surprised by the acquaintance they suddenly saw. But accidents are accidents, and there is something wrong with Xiao Qinglian's current state. Xiao Qinglian, who was only 7 or 8 years old last time, now looks almost 13 or 14 years old. It is full of aura, like a hibiscus emerging from the water, and like a young lotus bud blooming for the first time. The flowers have bloomed, and the little girl has grown up. She is much more beautiful in both temperament and appearance. But it's not just looks. Xiao Qinglian, who was originally only in the extraordinary realm, now has the aura of the 3 disaster realms at this moment. She is now a true half-saint. As expected of an ancient spiritual species, breakthroughs are like drinking water. Xiao Qinglian, no, it shouldn't be called Xiao Qinglian now. It is no longer small, and the original airport washboard is also slightly bulging, ready to bloom. Qinglian sat cross-legged on the highest point, with a pair of emerald eyebrows covering her emerald eyes. The aura on her body was soft and indifferent, spreading to the surroundings. Is this practicing? Yejing was a little confused. Qinglian was in such an obvious place. How could people in the dark world not see it? Then how could no one bother her? Or is it that she killed everyone who came? Unknown. While Yejing and Gray were still in a state of shock, a chirping sound reached their ears. The two of them looked at each other for a moment, and suddenly there was a dark look on their faces. Under a green lotus statue diagonally below the green lotus, a very wretched and familiar figure was revealed. Zhao Xingang was squatting on the ground, sticking out his big butt, holding a golden shovel in his hand, and was prying the base of the lotus statue. He kept mumbling something in his mouth. Yejing was speechless. Didn't this guy see Qinglian? After he blatantly dug up Qinglian's lotus statue, wasn't he afraid that Qinglian would punch him when he woke up? Qinglian's little fist can smash a mountain with one punch, right? In order to prevent Zhao Xiangbang from dying, the two people hurried over to stop him. Yejing stretched out his hand and pulled Zhao Hanba's shoulder, pulling him back hard. Hey! Don't make trouble. Zhao Xingbang was digging out the bottom of the statue, and he was about to dig out the entire lotus statue. Who knew he was interrupted, and he felt dissatisfied. Yejing's face darkened. He pointed at Qinglian, who was practicing not far away, and said, "Don't you see Qinglian? You are looking for death." Zhao Hanbang glanced at Qinglian's beautiful figure casually, and said indifferently, "What are you afraid of? How can she kill me? As long as she doesn't kill me, then she can kill me. I really can't help it. Can you imagine how a beggar feels if he doesn't go begging for food for a year? It's so uncomfortable." A 20-meter tall Qinglian statue was already crumbling, and it was about to be broken by Zhao's horizontal bar. Zhao held the golden shovel on the horizontal bar and waved it several times at Yejing and the others, with a threatening look on his face. "Don't hold me back, you two. I'll dig one." After that, he turned around and continued digging into the base of the Qinglian statue. A shovel, a shovel, a shovel. He just dug up Qinglian, who was in a state of cultivation, with shovel after shovel. When Zhao was digging the first shovel on the horizontal bar, Qinglian felt the slightest influence from the outside world and didn't care. When Zhao was digging the second shovel on the horizontal bar, Qinglian felt a noise ringing in her ears. When Zhao dug the third shovel on the horizontal bar, Qinglian felt that her mentality was going to explode. When Zhao was digging the fourth shovel on the horizontal bar, Qinglian felt the tendons on her temples jump suddenly, and felt that it would be bad if she didn't open her eyes. "It's fallen. It's going to fall." Gray looked horrified. The Qinglian statue in front of them was collapsing at a very fast speed. "Damn it! Damn it!" Zhao hurriedly moved away from the horizontal bar, fearing that the thing would be smashed by him. A few seconds later. Bang! There was a loud noise, and a big hole was made in the ground. Finally down. Zhao Xingbang looked excited and touched the Qinglian statue with both hands. He hadn't been so excited to dig up other people's things for a long time. It was so refreshing. It's fun to dig into other people's things, but it's not fun to do it in front of the owner. Zhao Xingban was still in a state of excitement, but Yejing and Gray were trembling all over and couldn't help but look up to the other side. An extremely terrifying aura floated in the air, followed by a crisp, yet angry voice that resounded throughout the world. "What are you guys doing?" Qinglian, who was in a state of cultivation, opened her eyes and saw these three living treasures. An angry look appeared on her originally elegant and delicate face. A light blue dress was fluttering in the wind, revealing a pair of delicate legs made of white peony. When Yejing and Gray saw the angry Qinglian, They shook their heads repeatedly and pointed at the fearless Zhao horizontal bar, indicating that it had nothing to do with them. I have to say that the 14-year-old Qing Lian is really beautiful despite her immaturity. If only it wasn't so scary. Qing Lian raised her cold eyebrows and glared at Zhao Hanban with a pair of beautiful contact lenses. She was practicing with the help of the lotus statue, but was interrupted by Zhao Hanban, which made her body tremble with anger. Court death! Qing Lian shouted angrily, and disappeared from the spot in an instant, and appeared right above Zhao Danggong in the next second. Then, she stepped on him. Bang! She stepped Zhao Danggong directly into the ground, and it was unknown whether he was dead or alive. Don't play dead. Qing Lian raised her eyebrows, lifted Zhao Danggong who had fainted from the ground, and punched him in the chest with her small fists. Each punch had a force of thousands of pounds. Qing Lian still had a sense of measure, at least she didn't kill him. However, she hit the wrong place. The force of thousands of pounds hit Zhao Danggong's kidney, and it was unknown whether it would break him. Who told you to appear on my territory? Who told you to dig my lotus? Who told you to interrupt my practice? Bang 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 bang. Zhao Danggong's eyes rolled back and foamed at the mouth with his small fists. Seeing Zhao Danggong who might be dying, Yejing swallowed his saliva, tiptoed to Qing Lian, and sniffed a hint of fragrance. Well, Qing Lian, why don't you stop for a while? Yejing patted Qing Lian's shoulder, and the soft feeling passed through his fingertips to his nerves, making his heart beat. Qing Lian turned her head and glared at Yejing, and this glare almost killed Yejing. Although it was a glare, it made Yejing's heart melt, and he waved his hand directly. Forget it, do whatever you want. It didn't matter what Zhao Danggong did. But Qing Lian knew her limits. When she saw Yejing coming to stop her, she snorted and threw Zhao Danggong heavily to the ground. She patted her white and tender hands, and then she remembered and looked at Yejing, raised her eyebrows, and asked, "Why are you guys here?" Yejing shrugged his shoulders and said with a smile, "Mission. This place will soon be covered by hellfire." Hellfire? What is that? Qing Lian leaned on a lotus statue, her delicate and smart eyes flickered, and her beautiful face was full of curiosity. That is a flame that can generate abyss energy. When the abyss energy reaches a certain level, it can help the semi-saint break through the second disaster. The second disaster? Is it really so magical? Qing Lian's eyes flashed with shock, and her lips painted with red opened slightly. Yejing nodded solemnly, yes, when the abyss energy reaches a certain level, it will really enter a disaster state. After surviving the disaster, it will be the second disaster. Wow! Isn't this just right for me? Qing Lian looked very excited and jumped up excitedly. Even though she looked like a 14-year-old girl, her mind was still like a little girl. She had just broken through to the first calamity. As long as she had the abyss energy, she could break through the calamity directly. Thinking of this, Qing Lian couldn't help but grab Yejing's arm. This touch made Yejing's heart flutter, and a lewd smile appeared on his face. Where is the abyss energy? Give it to me. I want it. Oh, You want it? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 491. Xiao Qinglian is an ancient creature. Although she has just broken through the first disaster, her ability is enough to break through the second disaster. She just lacks a medium to trigger the disaster. Now that she is here, as long as she has the energy of the abyss, she can directly overcome the tribulation, and she will definitely succeed. I have to say that the old guys from the previous era were quite ruthless. Yejing lowered his head and looked at Xiao Qinglian in front of him. The outstanding Xiao Qinglian was already 1.5 meters tall, barely reaching Yejing's chest. Now that hellfire has been incorporated by the Blue Star Council, only Blue Star's semi-saints are eligible to use it. As for Xiao Qinglian, she is not considered a Blue Star semi-saint. The abyss energy burned by the hellfire cannot reach her at all. Even if it's your turn, you'll probably have to wait for a while. But Yejing smiled silently. To increase Xiao Qinglian's favorability at this time, it shouldn't be considered taking advantage of others, right? After thinking about it, he smiled at Xiao Qinglian and said, "Don't worry about the abyss energy. I can get it, so you don't have to fight for it with those old men from Blue Star. You have one too." Xiao Qinglian looked curious and stared at Yejing with a hint of disbelief in her tone. "Certainly." Yejing nodded, with a confident look on his face. He raised his hand, and a ray of abyss energy appeared in his palm. "Do you see, this is the energy of the abyss, how about it? After we finish here, come with me." Yejing waved the abyss energy in his palm, his tone full of temptation. Xiao Qinglian's eyes became brighter and brighter, and the spiritual energy in her body was mobilized by the abyss energy, trembling slightly. "Why do I feel like you're just trying to seduce an ignorant girl with a lollipop?" Xiao Qinglian looked at Yejing suspiciously and muttered. "For it. Why do you understand this?" Yejing shrugged his shoulders. "We are all acquaintances, can I still lie to you?" 2. Xiao Qinglian wrinkled her nose, with confidence on her pretty face. She pinched her waist and hummed, "So what if you lied to me? With your small body, you can knock me down with one punch." Xiao Qinglian waved her white and tender fist and threatened Yejing. If this were a mature woman, it might be a bit threatening. But when it was said by a cute 14-year-old girl, it seemed very cute. "Are you okay?" Gray on the other side lay on the ground and lifted up the unconscious Zhao Hanban, patted his face vigorously, and woke up Zhao Hanban. "Hey hey hey! Wake up! Ba bang bang! Wake up!" After a thunderbolt beating, Zhao Horizontal Bar opened his eyes in a daze, with a confused look on his face. "Why does my face feel swollen?" Zhao Xiangbang opened his eyes, and saw Gray in front of him at first glance, and the pretty and pure Xiao Qinglian at the second glance. "Oh my god! Help!" Zhao Xingbang's eyes were horrified and he screamed. He hurriedly hid behind Gray, trembling all over. Xiao Qinglian just now was knocked unconscious by him with just a few punches, which had already left a deep and terrifying impression in his mind. Snort. Xiao Qinglian glared at Zhao Hanban and snorted coldly, "It should be beaten. If you hadn't dug up my statue, I would still be practicing now." Zhao Xingbang shrank his neck and whispered, "Who knew you were practicing?" "He actually knows, but he just can't control his hands." "What can I do?" Xiao Qinglian glanced sideways at Zhao Horizontal Bar, walked towards other statues, slowly raised her lotus arms, and a green light fell from the sky, covering all the statues. "Receive." With Xiao Qinglian's broken voice, all the statues flashed with green light, and one by one they began to disappear before their eyes. "These are all treasures, none of them can be left behind." Xiao Qinglian pouted and took away what Zhao had dug up from the horizontal bar. "My plan was in vain." Zhao Xingbang looked at the disappearing trophies, his eyes were lifeless and he wanted to cry without tears. "This is my thing." Xiao Qinglian patted her beautiful hands with a look of satisfaction on her face. "Okay, let's go." After Xiao Qinglian finished her work, she looked at Yejing and urged, she couldn't wait to absorb the energy of the abyss. "Walk." Yejing was stunned for a moment, then said with a wry smile, "It will take a while, we still have a mission." Xiao Qinglian frowned and asked, "What mission?" "Maybe, it seems, I can't tell." Yejing said that he didn't know if there was anything else for them to do. After all, the hellfire hadn't arrived yet, so there might be some chores they needed to do. But if nothing serious happened, it would be better for them to retreat. Then just wait a little longer. Xiao Qinglian didn't care. She transformed, and the natural green skirt that wrapped her delicate body grew 3 inches longer and fell to the ground. Xiao Qinglian sat on the ground with the part of her skirt that had grown out. Yejing looked at Xiao Qinglian, who paid no attention to her image, with a speechless face. You have returned to your 14-year-old appearance and are already a lady. Can you be more careful? What should I pay attention to? Xiao Qinglian shook her skirt and raised her eyebrows. I am already so old, do I still have to pretend to be young? Being cute doesn't matter your age, right? While they were waiting, a shadow came from the horizon, blocking their sight. Not only shadows, but also darkness. Here it comes. When the shadows covered the sunlight, Yejing and the others were shocked. They looked up at the sky and couldn't help showing shock. What is this? Xiao Qinglian also looked up, her red lips slightly parted, with an incredible expression. On the horizon, a mountain range slowly flew from the direction of the demon city, covering the entire sky. On the mountain range, layers of black flames burned. This is hellfire. The Kilin Mountains are coming. Yejing was shocked. The scene of the entire Kilin Mountains floating in the air was indescribably amazing. So shocking. So scary. They really moved a mountain range here. So cruel. No, no, no. No, no, no. Will their position hit us? Just when Yejing and Gray were still in shock, Zhao Danggong's scream suddenly woke them up. Damn. Only then did Yejing react. After looking up and calculating, his whole body trembled violently. It's not a question of whether it will hit us, it's a question of sure it will hit us. Yejing hurriedly grabbed Gray, with a panicked look on his face. Quick. Fly away. Fly. Yes. Fly. Gray panicked at first, then quickly spread his wings. He didn't even need to say anything, Yejing and Zhao Danggong were already lying on him. Fly. Yes. Gray flapped his wings fiercely and flew into the sky. Hey. Wait for me. Why are all of them passive skills? Author, Bulletin G. Bayet. Chapter 492. The Kilin Mountains came from the east, while Gray flew diagonally to the west. In this way, they could barely avoid the landing of the Kilin Mountains. They didn't have to worry about Xiao Qinglian. With Xiao Qinglian's strength, the Kilin Mountains wouldn't kill her even if they fell. No need to run so fast, right? Xiao Qinglian flew beside Yejing and others, and said casually. Looking at Xiao Qinglian, who was as light as a swallow and soaring with the wind, Yejing expressed envy. After he entered the heavenly fate realm, he could also fly. But he hadn't been trained yet, so his flying speed was very slow. In the distance, a group of semi-saints coordinated their work, and each of them controlled the spiritual energy they controlled to prevent the Kilin Mountains from tilting. In front of this group of semi-saints were the Dean and Anthony. The Dean was responsible for overall planning, and Anthony was responsible for leading the way. Look, isn't that Yejing and the others? Anthony narrowed his eyes and saw Yejing and others fleeing to the other side. By the way, we don't seem to have informed them when to come. Sorry, I forgot. The Dean looked at Xiao Qinglian next to Yejing and others with a complicated look. This seemed to be the second time he saw Xiao Qinglian. The last time, it was still next to the old Mandaji. It's a pity that the old Mandaji is gone now. Is that little girl also in the Three Disasters realm? She really has the talent of the last era. When Yejing and others flew to a safe place, the Kilin Mountains also began to land. The Kilin Mountains, which covered the entire sky, slowly moved to the sky above the ruins of the lonely city under the blessing and control of the semi-saints. Then, under the overall coordination of the Dean, begin to land. Start to land from thousands of meters above. This is a huge project, so big that you must be careful and not slack off. Everyone has held their breath and controlled their own aura in the most precise way to completely cover the Kilin Mountains and then land. They should not only pay attention to the Kilin Mountains, but also pay attention to the hellfire above, and try not to lose the hellfire. After all, hellfire is what they need. 10 minutes, 100 meters. 20 minutes, 200 meters. 1 hour, 1000 meters. The speed of descent is getting faster and faster, slowly pressing towards the ruins of the lonely city. When the Kilin Mountains fall, the ruins of the lonely city will really no longer exist. So slow. In the sky 10,000 meters away, Xiao Qinglian lies on the light white clouds, looking bored. She lifts and lowers her legs, kicking the clouds. Unfortunately, the skirt is too long, and there is no spring light, which can't attract the man's attention. Yejing and the other two have been looking at the Kilin Mountains, and their expressions are extremely nervous. They have invested a lot of energy in the Kilin Mountains. Once the hellfire is placed, their credit will be settled. If this fails, this short time will be in vain. Will the ruins of the lonely city collapse? Zhao Danggong suddenly muttered, and Yejing and the other two glared at him instantly. Don't talk nonsense. As time went by, the sky darkened, and the starlight poured in. Under the cover of the black flame, it got darker faster. At dusk, the mountain range landed. A deafening roar came out, as if the world was broken and the universe exploded and spread rapidly around. Boom boom boom. The huge vibration wave overturned everything and spread in all directions. The moment the Kilin Mountains landed, huge smoke and dust covered the sky. Hide. This dirty smoke and dust directly crossed the distance of 10,000 meters and stained the clouds where Yejing and the others were hiding. It's so dirty. Xiao Qinglian frowned slightly, and disgust appeared on her pretty face. She raised her arm and a protective cover full of natural breath surrounded them. There was too much dust. The dust that had accumulated in the ruins of the lonely city for a full year or two was all overturned in one breath. 10 minutes without falling. 20 minutes without falling. The dust covering the sky gradually fell. An hour later, it returned to nothingness. The dust dispersed, revealing the inside. The Kilin Mountains landed quietly on the ruins of the lonely city. Success. Finally done. They actually moved a mountain range. Such a major project, they actually completed it. Refreshing. A group of semi-saints gathered together, with refreshing smiles on their faces. As long as the hellfire is settled, it will be the harvest season. Why did they come to help move the Kilin Mountains? Isn't it just for the abyss energy? When the hellfire is settled, it will be time for them to collectively break through the first disaster. Great. Is it done? When the Kilin Mountains landed safely, Yejing and the other two breathed a sigh of relief. Until now, their mission has been truly completed. Next, except for some miscellaneous work, there may be nothing for them to do. Let's go too. Yejing helped Gray. Yeah. Gray nodded, and pulled Yejing and Zhao Danggong down. Dean. You're here. The Dean looked at Yejing with admiration. This time, he really made a great effort. Well done. The Dean patted Yejing on the shoulder and praised him. He looked at Xiao Qinglian beside him again, with a complicated look in his eyes. Xiao Qinglian noticed the Dean's gaze, nodded slightly and stopped looking at him. Dean, we should be fine, right? Yejing looked at the successfully relocated Kilin Mountains and asked with a smile. You guys. The Dean thought for a while and shook his head. It seems that there is really nothing you can do. Other things are more professional, and you probably can't do it. That's good. Yejing breathed a sigh of relief and said hurriedly, then we will go back to the Demon City. The Dean nodded and said, well, you go back first, and wait until this is done, and then count the merits of this time. Next, it's their business. For example, crossing the tribulation, he is also at the peak of the first disaster, and now the medium of the disaster is in front of him. How can he not be tempted? Bye, I wish you good luck. After saying goodbye, Yejing quickly gave Gray a look. Gray understood immediately and pulled them out of the ruins of the lonely city. He didn't want to stay in such a place of trouble for a minute. Who knows if the dean will change his mind? It's finally over. When they left the ruins of the lonely city, they all breathed a sigh of relief, and the oppression that had been pressing on them also dissipated. The sky gradually darkened, and it should be past 7 o'clock in the evening. Gray asked, should we go back to the magic city directly, or find a city to stay overnight? No. Go back to the magic city directly, Yejing said firmly. Staying for one night is not enough. This time, we have to sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. Thanks to Li Yongsheng for the reward.